My name's Kat. Why am I talking to you today? So I'm the head of AI at CPS. So I manage the overall delivery of all our AI projects to all of our local authorities across the UK. And there may be some local authorities in this room actually that are familiar faces that I've worked with in the past. And so lovely to see you again. I'm also an MVP. So what that means is I spend all my spare time blogging and speaking at conferences about AI. So I'm just a big nerd with it when it comes to the impact of technology. I have got my LinkedIn QR code there, and you can search my name, Kat Beedham, on LinkedIn. I really want to expand my network, and I post loads of updates and lots of things we're doing with councils within AI on LinkedIn. So if you did want to connect with me or follow, please do. I try to share as much insight as I can in terms of Microsoft technology and how it impacts local authorities. So please feel free to connect if you want. So I do have to do the obligatory who we are as well, but I won't spend too long on this because I know you just want to see some cool agents and understand kind of what the impact is for councils. But we are a Microsoft partner, so we deploy Microsoft technology to organisations around the UK. We work mainly in public sector, and we've worked with I think about 50 local government organisations and councils, over the past couple of years, and that's for AI specifically as well. So we do Microsoft 365 Copilot adoption, Copilot Studio agents, Azure agents, and anything to do with Microsoft AI technology. We're the team to come and implement it and support you with it. One thing I wanted to pull out of here, which is my team's really hard work, is that we were the Microsoft Partner of the Year finalist for 2025 for Copilot and Agents. So what that means is out of 4,000 partners around the world, CPS were one of 4 who kind of were a finalist of the Copilot and Agent work that we've done. So that's just a massive recognition to a lot of the difference that we've made to our customers. So just like to pull that out, hard work from the team over the last year, and that was down to a lot of the work that we did with local authorities in 2025 as well. So wanted to pull that out of there. Wonderful. So let's enough of that. We do Microsoft. We've got all the right badges. We're award winners. And we've really got experience in this space. Some of the councils, just to kind of flag just some brands in here so you can see who we've worked with, but I mentioned the list is quite large in terms of all the councils that we've worked with, so you can read that. I'm not going to go through it, but what this slide just really shows is we have worked with local authorities on building out AI agents, and local authorities, you'll usually have some very similar challenges and pain points, and so we do have a whole bank of agent opportunities and use cases of where we've seen a huge impact with other councils. And so if you're at the start of your journey and you're like, I don't really know where to start or what areas to maybe look at or focus on, we've got a big massive heat map of areas where we've seen really great impact from agents, so we can help you get started on that journey. What I did want to before I start just really quickly with agents, and I'm going to show you some demonstrations of agents that we've built for other councils. What would be great to hear from in this group is, now feel free if you want to kind of raise your hands or post in the chat, but where are you on your agent journey? So can I just get a hands up if who knows what agents are when I say agents? And if you don't, that's fine because I'll explain it. So if you want to raise hands, who knows what agents are? Cool, perfect. So we've got some people not. And keep your hands up if you've started implementing agents at your local authority. So we've got a couple in the room, but maybe a lot of people haven't started. Perfect. For those who have started implementing agents at your local authority, if you want to post in the chat how that's going so other people can learn, that would be great. But I noticed there's some people who are maybe thinking, Kat, agents, what are you talking about? So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So I'll start there and then we'll show you some stuff. So for those who aren't aware, when I talk about agents, what am I talking about? So I'm hoping that everybody in this room knows what Copilot is. So it's Microsoft's AI assistant technology that they've implemented to Word, Excel, and email and Teams. And you can use Copilot to help you with write my email for me, or summarize my activity for the last 30 days, or help me draft this policy document, or review these tender specifications. And I'm loving the GIFs. Please feel free to use memes and GIFs to represent how you're going. So that's Copilot. So it's saving me time, it's helping me look at my data, and it's helping me, with my productivity. Notice how I keep saying me, me, me. So that's Copilot. Agents are essentially co-pilots that we can build from scratch and personalize and build for specific tasks or processes. So where Copilot is a personal productivity tool to save me time and look at my emails, look at my stuff, and so on, agents are designed for teams and departments and tasks. So we can create specific agents to do specific things for us. And I'll give you some examples to maybe frame it a little bit easier. And I am going to show you different variations of agents today, so you'll see them live. So if you're not sure, don't worry, you'll see them. So what you'll see here is we've got our Copilot personal productivity and agents. So you might have an agent for, say we're in project management, that's the easiest scenario. You might have an agent that we build to help us with project planning. We might have an agent that we help with project risks. We might have an agent that helps us with, lessons learned from projects. We might have an agent for helping to review budgets. Notice how I haven't said project management agent. I've said an agent to help with the specific tasks within project management. There's a reason for that. When we talk about agents, we're talking about really specific, AI agents that can do tasks. And to give you a little bit of context, Microsoft actually created a project management agent. And that big agent has 42 little agents that it's built behind it, all working together to do project management. So the little risk agent, the budget agent, the planning agent, the whatever agent, they're all there. They've been built and created, and they're all working together to give a massive project management agent. And that's important because when we work with teams to identify where we could build agents to help with business processes, say we've worked with educational psychologists, for example, within social services, and they'll have a massive process of the psychological evaluation that they have to create when a social worker hands over to them. And that's quite a big process. There's a process of reviewing the medical history and the child information. There's a process of putting that into a template, a psychological report template, then emailing that, and then reviewing that and sending that. And that's quite big. So we sat with that educational psychologist team and said, right, so that's a big process, loads of steps in it. What's the thing that just takes the longest? And they said, well, it's looking at the information, the history of the child, for example, and it's drafting that report. So we created an agent to help with I'm loving Stuart's creative use of AI to create some images. So we'll use this for marketing, Stuart. We'll steal that from you. So the educational psychologists, we got them to create, we created with them an agent for just analysing a child's historical kind of medical information and history, and just pulling summaries out and putting that into a report. So that's a small part of it, but it saved a huge amount of time. So you wouldn't necessarily have a big educational psychologist agent. You might have 10 or 20 little agents that come together to actually help educational psychologists, as an example. So that's important when you're starting your journey. Start from small tasks, because agents can work together. We can build multi-agents, so they're talking to each other, they're working together, and they're doing what we need to do. But the more specific you are, the better it works. And that's just best practice. So I'm going to show you a slide, and I'm going to get into the demos because I know that's why you are here. But I'm going to show you a slide that it looks scary. I'm going to warn you, it does look a little scary. But I wanted to show you how the how agents is becoming more of a framework, and how many tools you have at your disposal to do agents within your organization. So it's scary. I know this is a horrible slide, but it really just shows you the breadth of everything when it comes to Microsoft Agentic AI. And I'm just going to call out a couple of things on this, and you don't need to understand it or know it or anything like that. But I just wanted to highlight when we'll talk about agents today and kind of where to start. And we'll start simple. We really do want to start simple and build out from there. That's the best way to do it. But actually, when you're starting to think about agents, you have a lot of tools when it comes to managing agents, creating agents, and getting people to use agents. So you'll see at the top, we have the ability to use agents that Microsoft have created, third-party companies have created agents, we've created agents that you can buy. So if you want one that's already pre-built, you could start buying those. On the right-hand side, you'll see you have tools, one of the new ones, which is called Agent 365. But again, let's not get hung up too much on the product names. But all of these tools to manage and control agents. Because if you remember, using Teams or SharePoint sites, you might end up with, thousands of teams and thousands of sites in SharePoint very quickly. It's the same with agents. You might have thousands of agents in your organization, but actually we want to manage it properly so people aren't creating the same agent twice and that type of thing. So you've got a whole bunch of considerations there. And then on the left-hand side here, you'll see you've got developer tools to build out agents. And this means that there's a huge amount of flexibility when it comes to, what we can and cannot do with agents. So whenever I speak to a social worker or an educational psychologist or someone in the auditing team within a council, and they're like, can AI do this? Don't get hung up on it. The answer is probably yes, because of the amount of flexibility that we have. The important part is for us to make sure that whatever we're creating is going to solve the challenge and the pain point. That's the main thing. So Stuart's absolutely right. The name will probably change for all of this in a couple of weeks. Like, this is my team's full-time job, and it's exhausting trying to keep up with the name change. So I actually created an agent for that to help us with any name changes from Microsoft. So there's an agent for that. But anyway, so just to show you the amount of how this is becoming more of a framework and a platform rather than just in there and it's a small thing. Actually, Microsoft have put a huge amount of tools to pull that together. All right, so what I want to do is I want to show you some examples of agents that we have built for other councils and where we've seen great success. And the list is massive, but I picked a couple to show you just different types of agents and the flexibility of it. So I'm going to show you some live demonstrations following this spectrum. So when it comes to building AI agents, there are three main types. And again, one thing that we recommend is that you do start here. So you do start really simple and build out from there. Don't start with the most complex process and agent. Start with a really simple, easy one. I'll show you a couple that have a huge impact that we've done in a second. So we've got retrieval agents. So this is an agent that you have which is pointing to a database or is pointing to some files or some information, and it's able to go away and retrieve information and answer questions about it. So that could be if it's a HR agent, for example, I point the agent to all of my HR policies and I can say, what's our maternity leave process, or how much notice do I have to give for holiday, or what's our benefits, or can I wear jewelry to work, or whatever questions I might have. I can build an agent to help answer those. So it just goes away, it looks at information and finds it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, let me show you an example of a retrieval agent now that actually, it seems simple, but it's a massive pain point for any council that we've ever spoken to. So the agent I'm going to show you is a freedom of information request response agent. And this is one that we built with an FOI team and officers in the room, and we went through the requirements and we sat and we started building out this retrieval agent. So let me show you an example of that. Now, when it comes to building agents, I can build agents, and my Wi-Fi has been a little dodgy, so I do have a Blue Peter moment of one that I've done earlier. So if it's a little slow, don't worry, we can show you the response. So we when we're building agents, we essentially they're chat interfaces. So I can talk to an agent like you would with Copilot. So I would go into the agent, I chat to it. You'll see here my FOI response agent. I can go in and I can ask it questions in natural language. I'm accessing my agent through Copilot. So this is the Copilot app on my laptop, but you can access agents through Teams chats. You can access agents on mobiles. I'll show you an example of a mobile one a bit later on. You can access agents through a website. So we actually sat with a housing team for a council and we built a housing repair agent that would be a chatbot on the council website, and it would answer questions about how to report an issue with mold or a leaky roof or whatever it may be. So you can publish them on websites. So it's very flexible in terms of where you put the agent, in terms of where it's going to be used. So just keep that in mind, very flexible. What I'm going to do here, so in this scenario, let me paste my request in and we'll just get it going while I explain how the agent works. So this pain point is, now it's not doing the end-to-end process for FOIs because that's too big. We want lots of different agents, right, to do the specific tasks. But what this agent has been programmed to do, I've given it a bit of instructions. I've told this agent, you are an FOI response agent, and you're going to help my team when a new FOI response comes in. I'm going to paste the FOI or the request, sorry, not the response. I'm going to paste the request into the chat. So you'll see here, this is an example of an FOI that we've had. Provide the costs of dealing with school skiving over the last 3 financial years and include some of the enforcement and legal costs. That might be one that comes through. What this agent is pointing at is a history of existing FOI responses. So the idea here is that it's going to save some time when it comes to drafting a response. If we've just done one recently, there's no point sending this to like the education teams to then go and provide an answer. We answered this last week. So we've actually pointed it to all of our kind of, last 12 months of responses, and it's going to use that to help draft a response to the FOI to save time, not just for the team receiving it, but for the officer as well. The other part of this that's really important is it's actually classifying the request that comes in. So when we were talking to the officers who deal with the FOIs, they said we get so many requests that are actually like subject access requests and they're not FOIs. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate it. So it'd be great if it could classify. Yes, it can. So in this agent, it's designed to classify, is it an FOI or is it a SAR, a SAR, a subject access request? So I've added that to the agent to say, tell me if it's an FOI request. This is an FOI, so it's got it. I've added a confidence level. So I want the agent to tell me how confident it is that it is an FOI. So I've asked it to tell me what it thinks based on the confidence levels that I've given it to reference. What I've also asked it to do, and this was important for the council we were speaking to, is we want you to flag any items in here. So if somebody asks for personal information, we want it to flag to say, someone's asked personal information, we can't respond to this because it's, it's unlawful and we're not allowed to. And the council that we worked with, we actually pointed the agent and gave it the website links for all the kind of section numbers and detail. So it could actually say, based on section, 50, whatever, you can respond because of this. And so it helps to kind of to tell you when you shouldn't say anything back. Recommended action, proceed, because we've got the information, we're happy to do it. We've done one before and it's not got any personal information. So you'll see here it drafts it for me. What I've also done is I've given the agent a template in the background to use whenever it responds. So I've said, I want you to do, the question, I want you to do the answer, add any financial data into a table, and I want you to sign off in this way. So you can tell it exactly, if you've got like a prefix or whatever you need to include in all of your responses, it'll include that. In this case, it's provided the information because we have it and we've answered it before. If you don't want it to provide the financial information, you don't have to. So we have control over what it generates. So from here, this is saving me a huge amount of time because I don't have to sit there and think about what is it and should I answer it and what team does it need to go to. I can respond because we just did one recently of the same question. And when we were going through, and we can of course, continue to draft follow-ups or edit it and make it include these things or take out the table, and I can just keep refining it if I need to, and that's not a problem. When we were doing this with the council, one of the funny things that we were trying out was the language. So we did ask the agent, how do you, like, what's the cost of skiving in schools? So it understands the natural language of skiving. You don't have to say unauthorized absence, because somebody might email the council and say, what's, how much does skiving cost you? And we wanted to be able to answer. So that's quite fun. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you one, and sorry, I think I'm lagging slightly. So please ping in the chat if team, if there is any technical issues, but I'm going to show you another example of one that is asking for personal information, just so you can see the response of it. So in this one, I'm going to say, please provide me the names and addresses of people found for school attendance. So in this scenario, the agent should identify it's an FOI request, but here are some flags, because there's personal data, there's identifiable information, child safeguarding context. Here's all the flags, so please be aware, and refuse the disclosure of names. And you can make sure you get an officer to review, before it's issued. You can say this, but you don't want to say anything other than that. So you'll see it still helps to draft the response. We can't provide you this because of this, law, the section within the law, and so on. So it does understand, and it can flag when there is personal information or when there's anything impacting safeguarding or anything like that. I am going to show you another scenario just to show you that it does identify in class the different FOIs, and then I'll show you my next one after this as well. So in this scenario, I'm asking the agent, I want all the information the council holds about me and my child and school attendance and so on. So in this case, it's going to identify, oh, this is a subject access request. So, you don't have to respond to it, or you can send it on to another team. When we were doing this with the council, we were building in a workflow to send the request to the team that deals with the subject access request. So it can actually do things in the background where it goes away and it sends off an email to say, hello, we've had a subject access request come through. Can you help it with it? So that was a part 2 of the agent. But you'll see here, even just having this as a process, the team just flagged that in terms of the time saving of just reviewing, classifying, and not having to go through ones that we've already answered, it's a huge time saver. So it had a massive impact. But you'll see it's not the whole process, because it's not then dealing with, if we do have to go to the traffic team to answer a question, there's an agent that can help with that process. There's an agent that can help with the traffic team finding the right information from all their data sources and then responding back. So this is one part of that FOI process. So starting simple. It's a little slow, so I'll move on quickly. But one of the funny things that we were testing out as well was if somebody just puts in a thing like, why does the council allow so many yellow box fines? What is that fair? Or something like that's a funny kind of, thing that they might have come through. And the agent identifies this is opinion and not an FOI request. And so it's probably not appropriate for us to respond. So it will understand that, which is quite fun. So that is an example of a simple retrieval agent. The reason why it's a retrieval agent is because it's pointing to a history of the FOI responses that we have, and we've just given it a set of instructions on how it responds and how it classifies. We've also pointed it at a couple of websites, which include some of the lawful kind of sections and so on to flag it and review, and we can point it to kind of any other third-party database that we want to as well. But we managed to start building a pretty good agent in quite a quick time frame, which had a huge impact. So the time to value is quite quick, which is good. And that's an example, just retrieval. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a step further, and we're going to show you an example of an agent where it is a task agent. So as well as being able to look at information, answer questions, draft things, we can get it to do actions for us as well. So we can get it to send emails, update Power BI dashboards. We can get it to send messages to people and any other kind of action you can think of that you would need as part of the process. So let me show you an example of that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Copilot again. Oh, it's a little laggy, so hopefully I'm still coming through okay for you. So I am just going to show you another example, and this one impacts quite a few different types of organisations, and we've done this with a few councils, a few NHS trusts as well. It's the challenge around HR. So with one organisation that we worked with, they had 7,000 staff members, and their HR team had 100,000 emails and calls go through to the HR team in 1 year. So they came to us and said, that is a huge pain point for us. And the HR team are stressed and you know, they're just answering basic questions all the time. Can we reduce that by 75%? So what we've done is we've created a HR agent that does an element of retrieval and an element of the task actions and helping HR. And we did manage to cut that effort down. So we managed to reduce the number of emails and calls going through to HR. And I'll show you a little slide with some of the ROI of that a little bit later on as well. So I'll show you kind of the impact of that, but this is one that the entire organization would use, whereas the FOI response agent is mainly the officers who are kind of dealing with the queries coming through. This one is for everybody. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say something. So let's show you the retrieval thing really quickly. So it's pointing to our HR policies. So we're going to go in, we're going to say, what's our maternity leave policy? It's going to go in, it's going to have a look, it's going to find the right policy, and it's going to send me the response back. This agent will flag the file that it's picked up from as well, so I can make sure that it's got the most accurate, up-to-date maternity leave policy, and it's going to summarise that through for me as well. And this is actually an agent that we've got in CPS, and so you'll see our CPS maternity leave policy, so you can compare it and see if you've got a better one. But that should come through for us in just a second. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is a little dodgy this morning. One of the nice things about this is it's cutting down the queries that are going to HR. I'm just going to talk as it's loading. We do have a lot of queries going through to HR, but there's sometimes I might not want to tell HR I'm pregnant, and so I want to check the maternity leave policy first without, having to speak to a HR person. And what we've identified is that people do not like searching for things. It's in the internet, it's easy to find, it's there, it exists, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you signpost, people will go to a person and ask for the file. They just don't search. And so this kind of cuts down the amount of queries. So we've got a nice summary, maternity leave policy, here it is. I can ask them to, can you tell me about dads? What you'll see when I'm typing into the agent, I've got spelling mistakes. That's fine for accessibility. It will understand spelling mistakes or any kind of grammatical errors that you have. That's fine. And what you'll see is it's understanding natural language. So I've said, what about dads? I didn't say, what's the paternity leave policy? So it understands even if I explain it in layman's terms and use simpler language. So paternity leave for dads and partners, here it is, and it gives me the answer. So it's smart enough to work with how I would speak. What I'm also going to say in here is I'm going to ask it to, because it's AI, it's not just going away and finding the information, I can get it to generate like things for me as well. So I'm going to say, can you write an email? And whenever I do typing and anybody's watching, all spelling goes out the window, so bear with me. Can you write an email to my HR team and tell them I am pregnant? And what that will do is help me write and generate the email to HR. And because, again, it's AI, it's going to generate a response for me. So here's a clear professional email, pregnancy notification, here I am, my expected date is this, and I need to use the policy, and here's the information. But what I can also do is, because, again, using natural language, I can say, can you sugarcoat this email? And I can give it kind of descriptive words of the tone and the language that I want it to use. So I can say, really lay it on thick, really, use it to like make it warm and upbeat. And so you'll see here, it's really laid it on. I want to share some really great news, smiley face, thank you so much. And it just, yeah, if that's your style, great. It helps with that as well. One thing just before I show you the task element of this is because, again, it's AI, it works with different languages. So we usually get it too, and there's one that I did earlier because let me see if it can pop up for me. So we have different languages built into this already. So I can ask it a question in Polish, or I can ask it a question in French or Spanish or any other language, and I can ask it, and I did have one before, so it's not coming up, but I can ask it in Polish, for example, what's our maternity leave policy, and it's going to go away and it's going to find the maternity leave policy, and it's going to tell me what it is in Polish. So my maternity leave policy is in English. Doesn't matter, the AI can translate it for me. So there's an accessibility piece, an inclusivity piece when it comes to, if English is your second language, you can, type in any kind of language. I think it's up to 50 that are supported, and it will translate your policies for you as well. We work with a lot of Welsh local authorities as well, and that's really important. Obviously, we need the Welsh language to be accessible for people, so we can use that for Welsh to translate all our policies, which is quite cool. And it's not coming up, so we'll just we'll skip past that. Okay, so what we've also done with this agent is we haven't just pointed it to policies, we've connected it to our HR system and how we book annual leave and holiday days. So we've actually plugged into this agent a process to be able to tell me how much holiday I have, help me book it off, and to notify my manager and build an approval process into this as well. So I can say things like, how much holiday do I have left? And because I'm logged in as Kat Beedham, I'm logged into the agent and Copilot, it's going to understand that I'm logged in as Kat Beedham, that's my account, and it's going to match me with my kind of HR system. So that's why it can understand, what my holiday days is. So it's not going to show me anybody else's, it's just going to show me mine. So this is going to look at how many holidays you have. You have, 3 holidays left or 6 holiday days left. You'll see here, do you want me to help you book some holiday days? Yes, book 3 days, please. And I could just say yes, and it'll respond with, great, how many days do you want to book? And it'll just take me through what it needs to be able to answer the question. And then I might say, it'll say, when do you want to book them? When do you want it to start? So I'll just say, let's start on 16th April. Let me do some holiday tomorrow. Shall we have a long weekend? And it'll pull that through for me. What was built into this in the background is we've got this doing an approval process. So it'll go through to my manager in Teams, and I'll have a little approval card. And once they hit approve, it will update the HR system, and it will notify me as well to say, your holiday's been approved, woohoo! And we've made it really fun and added some emojis to, make it more exciting. And that's how we've designed this agent, but we have had customers as well where we've designed an agent that has a table with the kind of holiday information and sick days left and more detail, but we've made this as more of a conversational agent. So it's very flexible in terms of how you design it. So we can actually get it to action things. So that's updating a HR system, it's sending an approval email to my manager, and it's working for me and doing tasks. One of the things I'll flag with this as well is it does have an escalate process in it. So if you need to say, escalate to HR, or I need some help from a human, it can go and do that. Either send them an email, or it can ping a HR team in Teams, however you want it to notify, but we can escalate to a real person if needed. What we can also build into agents is sentiment analysis. So it can identify positive and negative sentiment. So it can kind of recommend, do you want to speak to a human? Because I maybe shouldn't answer this question if it's mental health or something serious as well. So that's quite important for HR teams. All right, so let me show you another example of an agent. So covered kind of a really easy kind of retrieval FOI, but has a huge impact. A task agent where you've got HR doing a bit of retrieval, but then it's going and updating stuff and kind of sending approval processes and so on. You have autonomous agents as well. And the one I'm going to show you is it can be an autonomous agent, but it's one that had such a big impact with the councils that we've kind of started building it out with, that it's definitely worth showing you. But an autonomous agent is where you have agents working by themselves and you don't necessarily need a human to go in and chat with it. It will just, for example, in customer service teams, if you've got emails from the public coming through with questions, you can get an agent to answer those emails automatically as they come through. So you can just get it to work without you having to do anything. So that's kind of ones that we've looked at with other councils as well. But this one I'm going to show you is a scenario that has come up with quite a lot of teams that we've worked with. And it's a little video, but it's the agent working on a mobile device and it's working through Microsoft Teams. So this is just to show you a different way of accessing it. This scenario was with social services and the hospital discharge teams for social services within councils. And this scenario is getting your agent to do your care assessments or your case notes. And so you have a social worker who is going to visit a family, it's going to visit a vulnerable adult on site. They're traveling a lot, they have maybe lots of visits scheduled throughout a day. They go in, they sit, they write their notes, they then go to the next meeting and then they come back to the office and they have to type those notes up. And then they have to put those in so many different types of assessments. There's Care Act assessments, there's loads of other ones that they have to kind of fill out, risk assessments. There's so many that they have to kind of fill out, which takes a huge amount of time. So we've built an agent to help with that and automate that process. So in this scenario, with an agent, instead of the social worker going on site, writing handwritten notes, and then coming back to the office and typing them up and working late, what we've done is built an agent to help with that. So I'm a social worker and I've gone on site, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my mobile and I've opened up the Teams app. And then when I'm in the Teams app, I'm just going to click on the calendar button. And I'm just going to start a new meeting, which is this little button at the top there. So I'm just going to click that little button and that's going to start a new meeting for me. And we've actually got this to work with what's called the facilitator agent. And that is an agent that Microsoft have created to help record and take notes for meetings. So we've built an agent that works kind of with our facilitator. So what happens now is I'm just going to go back into the meeting so you can see it. But what happens now is this meeting is now being recorded with the facilitator agent. So it's taking notes. So I'm going to put my mobile on the coffee table. I'm going to get consent to record and transcribe the meeting. And me and the service user are going to have a conversation and I'm going to do my meeting. And as a social worker, I don't have to sit and do my notes. I've got everything transcribed. If the service user turns around and says, actually, can you not record this? I can hit the pause button and I can mute it and it'll stop recording. And then I can hit mute again and then it will pop up and it will allow me to record. When I'm finished, all I have to do is, Stuart, I see your hand up there, but if you hold on for the end and I'll come to you if that's okay in terms of questions, because I'm conscious of the time. Or if you want to pop it in the chat, we can answer it if that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that meeting. I'm going to click the red button to hang up. Finished, great, put my phone in my pocket, I'm going to go to my next one. And then I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to go to my next visit and do the same thing. What the agent will then do is it's going to kind of have all of my my transcripts and conversations for me. And say I can do this on my laptop, I can go back to the office and open my laptop and do this, or I can sit in my car and I can use my mobile and I can create my assessments in the car if I wanted to as well. So that's a personal choice for the teams. But I'm going to go into the chat. and I'm going to click New Chat, and I'm going to type in the name of the agent that I've created, which is the Case Assessment Agent or Case Note Agent. I think we called this one our assistant. And I'm going to ask the agent, just like a chat like you would with a colleague, I'm going to say to my agent, hello, can you please summarize my last meeting that I had for me? And it doesn't have to be summarize my last meeting. It could say summarize the last 10 meetings or 5 meetings that I've had with John Smith and John Doe. It could be multiple meetings, that's fine. What you'll see here is the agent has given me a summary. I'm just going to pause that quickly so you can see it. The agent has given me a summary, and you'll see the language in the agent for the summary is specific. So we had to design the agent so it answers certain questions, and it's a friendly summary with simple language, and it's not coming up with its own narrative. And when we were testing this, say we were talking to, in this scenario, it's John, who's a vulnerable adult. John talked about the fact that he had some issues with, walking and his knees. And so the agent, the first time round, was like, he said he had problems with his knees. This could be, this is the thing, and this mobility issue and all of this stuff. And we were like, no, we don't want you as an AI agent to diagnose the vulnerable adult. We just want you to summarize the conversation that was had. So we plugged that into the agent to make sure that it didn't come up with its own thing. And that happened with the educational psychologist as well. It was like, oh, so they've had a history of this mental illness and this suggests this. And we're like, no, be factual, don't make stuff up. And so that's what we've plugged into this one. So you'll see it's really simple language, how things have been at home, what's working well, what's difficult, and that summary that particular council needed. I'll just forward that, I'll just skip that, sorry. What I can then do is I can say, okay, I want you to create my assessment for me. And what we've actually done is we've put in a Care Act assessment in this agent, a template, and it's going to use that template and it's going to fill that template out with John's information. So you'll see here, it's got my tables and my sections. It's got whether I've got, here's my support plan, the issues that we were talking about. One of the important parts to note here is the agent. You'll notice it says it doesn't have the information, so information not provided. So it's not going to make stuff up, basically, if it can't find it. Did they have a form of dementia? That wasn't mentioned. And so we're going to flag it in the agent that it's not mentioned. Now, as a social worker, I can choose to edit this. So I can go into the agent and say, can you add this information or make it more detailed or fill out this and so on. So I can keep refining it. Once I'm happy with it, I can then say, and sorry, it is a little slow today. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi. But once I'm happy with it, I can say, put it into a Word document. So it's going to put it into my council branded assessment template and upload it to my case management system. So I can get it to actually put things into other systems and update records for me if I want to as well. So it's creating the Word document and it's uploading that for me. One thing that I'll say we've come across with case management systems, it would depend on what one you're using, because there are certain ways to integrate agents with third-party tools. And I know there's some case management systems from councils that you're not able to upload information using an agent. There's a bit of a kind of technical thing there, but some of them that we can. So we do that in a discovery session with you. So doing this Care Act assessment and filling out that template, we worked with a council in Wales, and they said the impact of that is our hospital discharge team in adults, for example, sometimes it takes 3 days to complete these assessments because we're so inundated with admin and forms that we have to fill out. And so we might have John, the vulnerable adult, who can't be discharged until he gets that Care Act assessment filled out and signed off. And so if this was to speed that process up, that means that John can actually be discharged from hospital quicker, which means we are freeing up beds in the NHS because we're able to get this admin done quicker. and we're improving the public service to John and his family, and improving their mental health because, vulnerable adults are being released to their family quicker, and just the overall impact of that is huge. So not just a time saving and reducing stress for social services, but actually freeing up beds in the NHS because we can get an agent to help quickly pull through the assessment information. And all this is doing is looking at the meetings that you've had. There may be some scenarios we came across it where maybe recording isn't appropriate. Fine. In that case, don't, and just do what you're going to do. But even if you're doing handwritten notes, you can take a photo of your handwritten notes, plug it into the agent and say, can you just transcribe all these notes for me and put it in my assessment template? So you can use it for that as well. And that was just a huge impact of a little agent that actually wasn't that difficult to build when it comes to doing admin and social services. So it's an area that we'd highly recommend taking a look at. Okay, so hopefully that has shown you a little bit of examples in terms of the types of agents that we can build. So there's some that we've built with other councils that have gone down really well in terms of the impact and how much it's helped. What we do with all of our agents is measure the impact of that, because if you're starting your journey, a lot of it will say, we need an agent, for these problems, but actually we need to prove that it is having an impact, because agents cost money. It does cost money to implement and to run. So we need to make sure that we're balancing that out. We use this framework, which is return on investment measurements, return on employee measurements, and return on customer measurements. So whenever we're identifying a use case, we plug it for this to say, is it hitting at least two of these in terms of, is it saving us money? Is it improving our employee retention, or is it improving the service that we're providing to the public and people within our areas? So the HR agent for the 7,000 user organization, you'll see some of the queries that we managed to get through with the agent, and the time saving. So it was getting the equivalent of 6 kind of HR full-time members back, which means they can work on more proactive HR initiatives and improve the services without having to just sit and answer lots and lots of questions. So we have a value framework that we use to measure that impact of the agents that we build. There's quite a few bits that we covered there. We've got some time, then I'll come to questions in a second. I know that we've got, I think Carrie's jumped on as well to answer some questions, so we'll have some time to go through that. But just lastly, before I do, we at CPS have built these agents already. So there's a lot that we've done with other customers where, use what already works. So we've got HR agents that we've built, bid manager agents, recruitment agents, care assessment agent, so we can support. Easier to implement because we've already got the brain of the agent, and we just have to tweak some of the kind of data points and workflows and so on, so we can get you there quicker. And we also offer agent assurance to make sure we're supporting that agent that we've built and proactively improving it in there as well. And then just lastly, as a kind of call to action for this one. So we, for now, up until July time, have access to Microsoft funding. And the reason I say end of July is because that's when it usually resets and they change it all. So we have access to funding, and that's how a lot of our councils have built these agents and done a proof of concept, is they've used Microsoft funding. They've got CPS to come in, so Microsoft pays us, you don't have to pay for anything. We come in, we build these agents as a proof of concept, and then we move on to a pilot, and then we start kind of rolling these out. We can find out how much money you have eligible. So if you want to, please reach out to us. We are happy to find out how much money you have. There's no commitment. If you want to find out how much money you have and didn't want to use us, that's fine as well, but we can support with that. And we can help with an AI journey conversation as well. So if you want to scan the QR code, then you can do that, fill out the form, and then we can do a couple of hours with you in terms of where you're at. If you're at the beginning, if you're kind of getting any roadblocks of governance or security, data usually is a thing that comes up when we're implementing agents, because the AI is only as good as your data. So if you want to go for any of that, we're happy to. So please scan that QR code if you want to. With that, I will pause if there's questions in the last kind of few minutes that we have left. Stuart, I'll let you jump in there with your hand up. I'm not sure if you can unmute, actually. I don't know, marketing team, if you can let Stuart unmute. If he's on, no. Okay, Stuart, give me a second. Let me see if I can get you unmuted. Yeah, you should be able to unmute.
I can unmute now,
there we
apparently.
Go.
So,
Perfect.
sorry, my name's Stuart Steele, Walsall Council. I think we have met previously. I think you bought muffins or said you were going to bring muffins. So if you at our when we had a pilot introducing Copilot. So thank you for that. Really interesting. My question is around the facilitator. So that agent. Does the agent that you've built talk to the transcript, or does it talk to the summary notes? Because we tried to implement Facilitator and very poorly, it did a very bad job because it couldn't access the true transcript. You could only access the notes.
Yeah, the summary notes. So we've built a workflow that works behind it to move the transcript to a place where the agent can look at it. So there's an extra workflow that we've built on the back of it.
Yeah, that's why we talked to Microsoft, and then they'd go, "Oh no, we can't do that." And then yes, you can apparently. So that's a bit frustrating. Okay, that's fine. And then the other one was, yeah, interested to see if we've got some funding. I've got a really interesting use case that might be very an interesting one around collecting recharges from the NHS, from the council. So if you want to get in touch at some point,
Great.
and we can talk about that. I've a perfect opportunity for some funding as well. So.
Amazing. That sounds good. I love how they started with, "Oh, you said you're going to bring, you had muffins," and that was the value.
Yep.
The muffins were the value.
Well, you said, well, you were our Copilot initiation partner, weren't you? So at Walsall Council.
That sounds good. But yeah, that sounds good. It'd be great to chat. I'll get the team to reach out, and we'll set something up and go through it. That's not a problem.
Please do. Thank you.
Perfect. Wonderful. Any other questions before we go? See if there's any worth calling out. Nope. Answered all questions. Okay, perfect. In that case, I will close the session, but we will have a team they'll be reaching out with a recording and the slides anyway. So thank you so much for listening, and yeah, hopefully it was a useful session. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.